Saatchi and Saatchi at the moment doesn't have a relationship with either of any of the political parties in the UK, but historically they used to work for the Conservative Party. Any claims commercially that we make on behalf of an advertiser have to be true. It sometimes is a bit of a conflict with some of my clients historically, where I've had to say, we can't lie. Political advertising is not subject to the same restrictions. The content is less validated by any external parties. When you look at both of these images, particularly the Farage one and the people in the background, it's deliberately inflammatory, but it's also untrue, because if we leave the EU, we'll have more immigrants from outside of the EU. It's like, so actually we'll have more of the people who look like this, not less of them. You know, the people who are migrating to the UK via the EU don't even look like this. It's just not true. But if somebody has those tendencies, or they have a fear of others coming from outside of their communities and stealing their jobs or their resources, and you make a point that there's a massive wave of these people coming, then that's going to strike fear. And fear can be a strong emotion to get you to behave and to do something. The Leave campaign really did appeal to those hot buttons for their audience, and they triggered all of them as necessary. And some of them were very unpleasant, but some of them were those things that people felt were super important, like the British NHS. But then equally the negative ones around migration, or this concept of taking back control. Control from where? From an elected European MPs to non-elected House of Lords. So, you know, it's like what control and where.
99% elutasítja az illegális bevándorlást. Ő Soros György, a világ legbefolyásosabb milliárdosa. Támogatja az illegális bevándorlók betelepítését és felszámolná a határokat. Ez felháborító. Politikája tönkretenné Magyarországot. Ne hagyjuk, hogy Soros nevessen a végén.
Okay, so is this actually about the context of him settling illegal immigrants in Palestine? Or in Hungary? In Hungary.
In whole Europe, actually.
99% of people are against illegal immigration. Of course, yes, that's a sensible fact. But then positioning him as though he's somebody that's pro-it by supporting illegal immigration. I would have to double check, but my understanding is not that George Soros is helping illegal or supports illegal immigration. Take a section of society, immigrants, and label all of them in some way as being illegal, unfounded to be there, and in some way violent, which seems remarkably unfair. Yeah. You know, this feels sort of like a deliberate propaganda piece against an individual. Freedom of speech is not the same as the right to be offensive. There is no right to be offensive. So is this protecting heterosexual families?
Yeah,
white heterosexual families? We use stock photography, hopefully not as cheesy as that, but sometimes when you're trying to produce campaigns on very small budgets and you want to spend more money on the media than you do on the production, then what you basically just sort of very simplistically see that this guy is obviously insane because he thinks there's no migration crisis, and yet we've got loads of people dying in terror attacks, which suddenly altogether there's a story being placed, but it's pulling things that aren't really connected together. So it's I don't know, it's like, I don't know how people get away with this. That's been continued with the Trump campaign, is that this idea of anti-experts, that we shouldn't listen to what people who've been trained and studied and expert in, and we should go on more of our own gut feeling. And I think that's a really dangerous way to make, you know, decisions on a national level.